This town makes many things every day. We already know how to count the town's output. That is total GDP for this simple moment. A bigger bowl of output can look like a richer town.
But the real question is how much that output means for each monkey. Imagine a blue town with 12 units of output and 4 monkeys. If we divide the output evenly, each monkey gets 3 units on average. That average share is GDP per person in Blue Town. Now imagine an orange town with 18 units of output and 9 monkeys. Even with a bigger total, each monkey gets only 2 units on average. So a bigger economy does not always mean more output for each monkey.
Orange Town has more total output, but Blue Town has more output per monkey.
GDP per person helps us see that difference. Now imagine a green town with 24 units of output and 6 monkeys. In Green Town, each monkey gets 4 units on average.
Green Town has the highest GDP per person of the 3. More output per monkey often means a higher average standard of living. If population grows but output stays the same, GDP per person falls. The same total output now gives each monkey less on average. But if output rises faster than population, GDP per person can rise. Now each monkey gets 4 units on average. GDP per person depends on both output and population.
Printing more money does not raise GDP per person by itself.
What matters here is production, not just money.
Better productivity can raise GDP per person. Producing more with the same workers lifts the average.
Higher productivity can make each monkey's average share bigger.
That usually means more real stuff for each monkey on average.
But remember, GDP per person is an average, not a promise that every monkey has the same basket. We use equal bowls here to show the average share. And only unite it. Total GDP and GDP per person answer different questions. Total GDP asks how big the whole economy is. GDP per person asks how much that output is for each monkey on average. A growing population can change the average, even if total output does not. The productivity growth can lift the average, even without population change.
In simple terms, GDP per person is total output divided by the number of people.
A richer economy is not just about more money. It is about more real output. What matters most for GDP per person is how much real stuff the town can produce for each monkey. 2 places can have the same total GDP and still feel very different for the average person. The smaller population gets a larger average share from the same total output. And if population stays the same, more output means a larger average share. That is why productivity and output matter so much for GDP per person. Better tools, better skills, and better connections can all raise GDP per person. Population growth without enough extra output
can push GDP per person down.
But when output grows faster than population, GDP per person rises.
Total GDP and GDP per person are connected, but they are not the same thing. One asks how big the economy is. The other asks what that means per person.
When people ask how rich a place feels on average, GDP per person is often the better clue. That is why a bigger total economy is not always richer per person. GDP per person is a simple way to ask how much an economy produces for each person on average. GDP per person means total output divided by the number of people.